So hands up, anybody who has been asked to make something go viral. Keep your hand up if you're fed up of that. Okay, so we're definitely all on the same page here. I want to talk to you about that, about being asked that. But first things first, there used to be a competition as to who could get the best lolcat into a presentation at ECF, but times have changed, we're moving on, folks. It's all about the doggos now. So, MeToo, everyone wants a MeToo. So let's have a look at what actually MeToo was and how it happened. It was actually created by Tarana Burke in 2006 on MySpace. This was before Facebook even existed. Remember that? But this is the moment that it actually took off when Alyssa Milano made this famous tweet. And it just started this snowball of millions of people all over the world sharing how they had been sexually harassed or assaulted. And here's a little graph of how that happened. So it was in response to Harvey Weinstein, and thanks to the Observer for this graph. We tried to get this issue live in people's consciousness around the world with the Everyday Sexism Project, and it nearly worked. It got traction, but there was no real world outcome in the same way that MeToo has really pushed things on properly. So, you know, if you've ever heard someone in your organization say, we tried this before and it didn't work, here's how you can push back on it. You just have to look at MeToo. Another anatomy of a campaign that we can look at is the Ice Bucket Challenge, which was not invented by ALS in the US, actually. We've done some journalists did some kind of forensic investigation, and this is where it originated, apparently. A tiny non-profit, faith-based non-profit in the US called the 24-Hour Cold Water Challenge, who originally were doing things like getting people to jump into harbors and stuff. But unfortunately, one of their participants got struck by lightning. So the health and safety regulations came in, and they said, well, how can we change this so that it's a lot safer for people to do? And thus, the Ice Bucket Challenge was born. That actually happened in March 2014, and it got picked up and evolved as it went through thousands of people interacting with it, doing stuff, changing it, responding to it from their own situation. So it evolved into Chill-In for Charity in June, which was some women of colour in I think a basketball team decided to do something, and then it got picked up by pro golfers, and surprise, surprise, once privileged people took it up, that's when it really went huge. The defining moment was Pete Frates, from the Boston Red Sox, who did the Ice Bucket Challenge on July the 31st. And because of his experience with motor neurone disease, that's when it became linked. And that's, I think, a real pivotal moment in the whole viral phenomenon. And then it peaked with Obama being nominated on August the 12th. So interestingly, in the UK, it wasn't the Motor Neurone Disease Association that benefited from the Ice Bucket Challenge. It was Macmillan Cancer Support, who made it their own. And they were criticised for this because people were saying, well, this is about motor neurone disease. But that's only because ALS had owned that moment so successfully in the States that people thought it was a kind of thing that they invented, but they didn't. So Macmillan Cancer had a difficult experience with no makeup selfie when people were telling them, well, you know, why didn't you benefit from this? And so they got together as a team and regrouped and thought, well, how can we be ready when our moment came along? And it did come along, and they took it, and they raised £250,000. Wouldn't that be nice? So I strongly recommend you watch this TED Talk by a chap called Bill Gross, who investigated startup success and concluded that the one thing that most successful startup businesses had in common was timing. It was not the idea. So when you're under pressure to come up with an idea that's going to go viral, that's not the thing. The pressure on you should be choosing your right moment. Which is where we have our first doggo coming in, the prehistoric doggo. Now, some moments are completely unpredictable, like MeToo. No one could have known that was the right moment for that to happen. It just did. But other moments are more predictable, so you know, get ready for those moments that may be coming up for your cause. So how do you know you're ready for your big moment? Firstly, so I've got 6 M's for you. Firstly, your message. You've got your message, and you know which messaging works with different target audiences. Number 2, you know how to measure your success. And this is most clearly exemplified by a campaign that did not measure their success, which was the DARE campaign in the States, who only learned many years after they started telling teenagers not to take drugs, that actually they took more of them. Monitoring, I know the conversion rate on my forms, so if I have a sign-up form or a donation form or a petition form, whatever it is, I know what my conversion rate is and I can increase it, and I have been able to do that. I think one of the biggest problems that we encounter in the sector is that we don't have permission from management to jump on these situations when they come up, and we just need to have the confidence of a mediocre white man. Don't worry, I know there are no mediocre white men here, so I just thought Muggy Mike was exemplified that. Mean Machine, we have a supporter engagement platform like Blue State Digital or Engaging Networks or Nation Builder, others are available. You have a stewardship program set up to nurture supporters once they come in. And you may be thinking, well, what if it never happens for me? Actually, doing all this makes you the best that you can possibly be. So what's not to like about that?